Welcome, everybody, to the Awake and Sober podcast, a podcast about life in recovery through Christ.
Hey,
y'all.
Hey. What's up?
Nothing. Good to be back.
He just left Eolia, didn't he?
He did.
I did, y'all. I was like 10 minutes in front of him because he drives like a grandpa, and then I stop. He goes, "Where are you at?"
Yeah, because I was here.
Well, Derek was here about 20 minutes before you got here, and I'm like, how did you guys leave at the same time? Because Derek drives like he's driving Miss Daisy.
And I drive quickly.
Yeah, so I mean,
I stop.
I drive 5 miles over the speed limit, the given amount of speed that you can actually go without them wanting to pull you over.
Actually, it's 11 or 12.
You know what? I was told
I
5
guess it
from
just
a
depends
highway
on what
patrol
cop.
guy.
Yeah.
So
Depends
I
on
go
the
with
cop,
what the
though.
highway patrol told me.
That's fair.
yeah,
They're pretty reliable.
I follow them too.
Yeah.
I definitely
Especially when
follow
they're on a high-speed chase, right? Right behind them. I want to see
So
where this was going.
I knew I shouldn't have gone this fast. This week, we have a special guest, and I want to quickly introduce Matt from Learn to Live. He's going to share a little bit of his experience,
doing?
strength, and hope.
Yeah, buddy. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too.
Haven't heard your story, so
Oh,
yeah, this is a
Me neither.
I'm
all giddy.
yeah. It's like, come on now, come on now. Anything else that you want to say at
Yeah,
the beginning?
always. Yeah, we want to thank our sponsor, Tactile Turn. Shane's got some pens up there. What do you got?
Oh,
The Zerk?
yes. I got the Zerk, of course, but then I got the Safety First, the beautiful orange one that everybody, it's so sought after. It's beautiful. And it's in its case in I use it quite often, but,
Yeah.
you know, I don't let them just hang around. I want to use them. I don't care what they're worth.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate Tactile Turn being our sponsor, all your support. We also want to thank, no, I don't want to thank.
Well, you
I
could
wanna
thank
say,
them.
Well, thank you guys for liking and sharing and subscribing. But continue to do so. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're on all podcast platforms. If you see us on social media, share us to your social media. Get the word out.
Yeah. Let your friends see us, as Derek said last week.
Yeah,
I'm still tripping about we ain't got no questions.
I know.
I want to answer y'all's questions out there, man. Kind of almost insulting.
We're over. What
Watch
are
our
we at?
answer
program,
them
you don't
up
get no
front.
questions for us?
We're over like 4,000 downloads, but I don't think we've ever had a question.
No, it's because we answer them all during the podcast.
That's
I mean,
true.
we are good at what we do.
We cover everything. So
This is true.
that's the way you got to look at it, right?
All right, so now we're just going to start playing the dumb row.
Yeah.
And then people actually start asking us questions. And we're going to do a whole episode on questions.
There you
A
go.
whole episode on humidity.
Humidity. Yep. Humidity works.
Really? See, this is where they went. You see this?
this is gonna be good.
Couldn't help myself. Derek, how you doing today, brother?
I was doing much fine till you showed up.
I know. I have that effect on people.
I was much finer.
I was finer.
Man, it's what a day today, man. It's been a day.
Amen.
When you pull up to your job and at 7 o'clock in the morning and the first thing you see is fire trucks, dude, you just know that day's just going to be a day, without a doubt. So we had a little mishaps at work today, but you know what? Made it through. I'm still going. I'm here, and outside of that, man, everything else seems to be going pretty well. Celebrate Recovery, I thought was great testimony yesterday at Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah, buddy.
It was great, man. And, he shared some parts, and the way he shared it and the way it came out, dude, I couldn't ask for nothing better, man. It was that perfect. And so if you're listening, bud, you know who you are. Good job last night, man.
I don't think he'd even mind saying who it was. You know
Hey,
how
Ron,
he is.
you the man, dog.
Single
You the
A
man.
Ron.
Yeah.
Not AA Ron, just A Ron.
Just A-Ron.
Hey, Ron. So,
Yeah.
Mikey, how are you?
I'm doing okay, guys. I'm doing well. Spoke last night about, this weekend, had a bunch of plans, and it's funny, I keep making expectations, and it's so hard to not make expectations, especially with someone that you really, enjoy and appreciate and want in your life. And then those expectations and plans just go poof, explode. And I would sit there just dead in the wake, didn't reach out, didn't do anything, didn't do anything that I teach and that I typically do. So supposed to go to cIall or church on Sunday, didn't go. Supposed to go to leadership meeting, didn't go. I was just caught in myself. And then this week at work, I saw a lot of positive change, and it was one of those things I really, really needed. I saw we talk about fruits of our labor,
Yeah.
and getting out of myself and getting into other people, and helping other people with their own problems is something that I said last night. God draws me to do that. He pulls me to do that, and being able to do that on a daily basis, and getting out of myself I'm just so grateful. So grateful. And last night was incredible. So Aaron, good stuff, man. That was really, really cool.
Yeah, I loved it.
I did get wrecked by one song.
Did you?
I did.
Which one?
You weren't the only one.
Lion.
Dude, Lion, man. Lion gets me every time, dude. Every time.
It's the Lion song, man, without a
That
doubt.
or it might get loud. Like if I hear that, and I like rock music. You know what I
Right.
mean? And when I see something like that, especially with like the video and man, if you aren't pumped up after that and like filled with spirit, something's wrong with you.
See, I was having a conversation in the foyer with somebody last night, and I knew I was going to get wrecked, but it would have been by the third song, As You Find Me. And I played it for a purpose.
Dude, that one did too. Yeah.
Okay, see, that's the one that should have got him.
It did.
It's been like 5 weeks in a row I've been wrecked during worship at cIall, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm the one that picks out the songs and puts the lyrics to them. So you would think I just get in there and no, God just wrecks me each time. I'm like, and then last night I was looking forward to the worship, and then I was out in the lobby having a conversation with somebody that we shouldn't have had to have. Mm-hmm. But
It's done.
You had it.
I made it back in there for the testimony.
You did.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a fun day too today.
What'd you
I got
do?
to ride along with the police and went to try to go get a guy that has barricaded himself inside. So went to try to get him out. And so we were rolling 10 deep, just 10 cars coming down the road. And then they
CIT.
stayed. Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't the CIT crew.
No?
No. They had long guns at the top of the street. And I went up there to the door, banging on it and trying to get him to come out since I know him. So it was kind of a fun day, but he wouldn't come out. I was kind of disappointed. I was hoping he'd come out so we could help him. So you would think it would be a CIT, but no.
Yeah.
They do stuff afterwards more than
Yeah.
just going where we went today, but it was still fun. Still got to go right along and try to help. And I look forward to when he does come out of the house so that way we could help him. So now with that,
Go in there and drag him out.
everything's boarded up. You're not getting in.
Sawzall, baby. I cuts to everything.
You can get in there, but you ain't
only
gonna
way
like what
you're gonna-
happens.
Well, we blew the door last time.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we blew the door last time, so hopefully we don't have to blow a door this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully not.
So something fun to talk about. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you doing, my brother?
Hey, I always tell people I'm living the dream one day at a time, and I truly believe that today.
But even nightmares are dreams, so everything going good?
Yeah, everything's going good, man.
Just making sure, because even nightmares are dreams.
Yep.
Yeah, buddy.
Yep.
Hey, that's just like saying even Satan was an angel.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, Fallen. So, I mean, what's going on in your life?
Well, a lot. First and foremost, my wife had our second child in February,
Congrats.
son, Nathan, and he's doing great, growing like a weed. I have a 2-year-old daughter as well.
Wow.
And so, we're doing that whole thing. They keep us busy. Learn to live always keeping me busy. But my sponsor told me something a while ago. I don't exactly know how long ago. I say I'm not a victim, I'm a volunteer.
Okay.
And so even when life gets hard, like today, we were supposed to take the guys to the baseball game, and we had the baseball game rained out, but we were still joking around in the stands and having a good time. And we didn't get to see the baseball game we wanted to, but we still had a good day, and we were sober today. So
Yeah, and you got to play downtown for a little bit.
yeah, we
That's
got to
awesome.
hang out down there a bit.
Yeah. So Matt, you mentioned Learn to Live. Give us a little bit of a backstory, a little bit of history on what Learn to Live is, and kind of what brought you to do that.
Yeah, man. So, you'll hear a little bit in my story about where and when I got sober, but, sober living and extended care was a big part of my story. Was a big key factor in I believe me staying sober. And when I moved back to St. Louis, it was something I kind of always wanted to do. And, Learn to Live now it's an extended care program. Sober living involved. It's a really immersive, supportive environment with also a lot of accountability. We're in Herman, Missouri, so we're close enough to St. Louis where we can go do fun stuff, like go to a baseball game, but we're far enough away where we can get some guys out of there, out of that environment, so they can begin to rebuild their lives. It's meant to be long term. Our average length of stay is around 6 months right now. Would love it to get closer to 12 months. But, right now we could serve up to 20 clients at one time. We love them till they love themselves, and it's a labor of love. I got great staff, great relationships. It's been amazing to see it grow in the last 3.5 years.
You've been open. Might help if I unmute my mic.
I was just saying, hey.
You've been open that long?
3.5 years, yeah.
Seriously?
Uh-huh.
I missed that part because I was looking at his
first
buttons.
year he was open.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys came out. We probably only had a couple of clients at the time.
Yeah.
He didn't have a whole lot yet.
He didn't have 20, that's for sure.
It's hard to believe. 3.5 years. Congrats.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. How many you got at right now?
So we got 10 in the Milestone 1 and 2 house, and then we have 5 in the step down house that we just opened this year.
Fantastic.
So
So
awesome,
they got the step down house. When we went, they didn't have that yet. So
Right. Yeah, because that just started this year.
This year, yeah, just in the fall.
nice.
So last year, but the end of the year.
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. 6 months.
That's wild. Yeah.
So, well, tell us a little bit about you. Where were you born, raised? Mom, dad, upbringing, all that good stuff.
Okay, yeah, we can get right into it. Yeah, so I was born in St. Louis. When I was young, my dad got a new job. We moved to Richmond, Virginia, and so that's pretty much where I was raised. Upbringing was great. My parents are still together now. They were together. My dad's a pretty successful guy. Worked his way up in his industry. Worked a lot. And growing up, I think the biggest thing for me was I just didn't feel like I belonged. My parents loved me the best they could. They raised me the best they could. And it was one of those things where, like, in school, I struggled there. ADHD, maybe some learning stuff. It just didn't come naturally to me. I was a pretty decent athlete. Growing up, I loved to play sports. Was in a sport pretty much for every season.
So what were you the best at?
Tennis, for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Completely out of left field. I was not expecting
Me
tennis.
neither.
Yeah, but we do golf together, so I should have known country club kind of stuff.
Tennis
Successful
and golf.
dad.
Yeah, tennis and golf. I played baseball. I played basketball. I played volleyball. Pretty much anything and everything.
Yeah.
But tennis, probably around middle school, I figured I had something there. I had a younger brother, also was in sports, kind of pushed me in sports for a while. At that point in my life, all I wanted to ever do was just fit in and feel like I fit in. That struggling in school thing kind of followed me all the way through. My first drink was like 13. My parents are normal drinkers, so there was booze in the house, and I had my first little sip, and for me it wasn't off to the races. I liked it. I wanted to do it again. I did do it again.
Obviously.
Once or twice.
But it wasn't like I took off right from there. My parents helped build a couple churches when I was young. My dad did sound. And in Edwardsville, started a church there. And so when we moved to Virginia, obviously looked for a church home there, ended up at a church called Mount Vernon.
I know it.
And, which was pretty small at the time. It's a pretty big church now. Had a great youth scene, which drew me in right away. And I felt like I was a part of that, It really, really hooked me in. We went to a bunch of retreats and stuff, man, and I had a blast. But I caught myself getting pulled off with a different crowd.
Right.
Right?
You too?
Yep. But man, I remember when I made the decision to be saved, it was Father's Day. 14.
I was about to say, what year?
Yeah.
But the age of work, too.
I was 14, so it would have been 2004. So I was 14. My parents were so happy.
I bet.
You go to the front of the church, and I could feel, I could feel them. I had that connection, and I hadn't gone in any particular direction other than what I was drawn to do. And that was an amazing moment. I could feel it. It almost gives me goosebumps now. Like I had some great friends. I had this group of people that I could go to during the week, and we'd hang out and go to these retreats and stuff, and I had a great time.
So you finally felt like you fit in.
Yeah.
And you were 14 when you did that, but you took your first drink at 13.
Mm-hmm.
So it made you decide to start going the other route after you were accepted.
Yeah, so there was, I mean, I don't know what exactly happened, but like I said, I was hanging out with that other crowd, and I started wanting to go hang on with them instead of going up to youth group. And, went to, like, I just didn't make the Wednesday. And then it was like, Sundays were kind of few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a job at a golf course, and it's very socially acceptable to drink at a golf course. Doesn't matter what time it is.
This is true.
And I really loved it. I got a job pretty young. I had to like walk and get rides to work, and I was already drinking. And it was one of those things where once I started to do that, I felt like I didn't deserve it. That connection that I had.
Okay, the other connection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Makes sense. Tough place to be at the age of 14.
Yeah. At a crossroads that young.
Mm-hmm.
That why in the road.
Finally have somebody where I fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I don't fit in again. I don't deserve it.
So, I mean, what happened that you crossed the line? When did that? You said you're talking about it was 14. What was going on at that time that made you go that route? That you really saw that route as a better way to go? Because right now, what I'm hearing, just from what I've heard you share, it was the alcohol became that coping mechanism for something at that time. What was going on at that time?
Yeah, I was an anxious guy, man. And there was times where I would have that outlet that would help just kind of take it away. So if it was sports, it was that. For a little while, it was youth group stuff, it was that. But when I didn't have that, I was constantly looking at myself in a very negative way. I'm not good enough. I'm not going to be, as good as these other people. Whatever it might be. I just really, really struggled with self-image. And then beginning to work, I just kind of got pulled in that direction. Once I took that drink, it all went away. I didn't think. I didn't want to think. I just wanted to turn it all off for the moment.
So the second drink, the third drink, that was the one that captivated you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So what was your using, I guess your drinking, what was it like from, when you crossed that line, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the way up until the end? What was the last couple of years like when
progression?
That progression. Yeah. What was that progression like? Was it quick? Was it?
Man, it happened quickly.
Yeah.
I got my license at 16. Immediately was trying other stuff. I smoked weed. Once I smoked weed, I wanted to smoke weed every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I knew that the ability to control anything was no longer there. I was young enough at the time where I didn't have access to things as much, but if I did, I would have probably drank more than I did. But once I got that, it was off to the races. I got held back in school, so I got my car, pretty much before all my friends did, and so I got that car that was freedom. And promptly about, 4 or 5 months in, I get nice and high, and I'm into this girl, right? So I want to go hang out with this girl. She's hanging out with this other guy. She doesn't need to be with him. She needs to be with me, right? And so
yeah.
So we decide we're gonna race. We go to this abandoned. It's not really abandoned. It's gonna be a development, but they haven't built any houses yet, so it's a long road. And so we go back and forth a couple times, and the last time, we go. He comes in my lane a little bit, and I try to overcorrect, and boom, I flip my car over a median. And that was like my first consequence. Up until now, no consequences really. And, you know, the car was on the other side of the median on its lid. I don't know how I got out of there. Right? I don't remember. All I remember is running away from it. Right? The rest of the car is mangled. The only thing that's not mangled is the driver's seat.
Wow.
Right? So if anybody's with me, they're dead. Right? Should have been a wake-up call. My parents show up there. My dad looks at the car, and he looks at all the stuff, and he's like, oh, man. The paramedics tell him, I don't know how he walked away.
What'd Dad say?
He couldn't talk to me at the time, but everyone said, you know, Matt, something's meant to happen with you. Like there's, you know, God's around you. He's helped you. He helped you get through this, you know. But I couldn't see it at the time, right? You know, no car. I can just go to work and go home. We know what I do at work. I get high and I drink, right? And so I'm okay with that. And, you know, get really, really depressed at this time. Not long after that, I was diagnosed with lupus, which is an autoimmune disease that most, you know, like middle-aged women get, not teenage boys, right? So I got it from a medication that I was taking. I'm in pain. I can't play sports the way I want to. I don't have any other outlets. All I'm doing is going to school, to work, and home, and repeat, right? I'm using every day at that point. Nothing harder than alcohol or weed. Like I said, I was a pretty promising tennis player, right? And, you know, freshman year, you know, we had a pretty good team. We had we had probably 4 people who played D1 tennis. So I was working my way up. But while I was doing that, I decided that using drugs and drinking was more important. And so I really stopped trying. I lost the love for it because the only thing I really enjoyed was the escape I got from drinking and drugs. And, you know, the rest of high school was pretty tough for me, but senior year really kind of came to a head. You know, we got to the state tournament. I'm not playing the second day. So the first day, at the end of the day, you know, we get me and another senior, and you know, two other seniors, I guess. They thought it was a good idea to give us our own hotel room in Virginia Beach. You know, three high school seniors, and we got nice and messed up. After a while, we got a little lazy. Some of the freshman kids were starting to come in, right? Eventually, some of the parents noticed and sent the coach in after us. We eventually get caught, and it's a very public thing. You know, we're in the paper, didn't win the state title. I didn't get to walk at graduation.
Oh, wow.
You know, suspended through the rest of the year, right? But I didn't care because that gave me the excuse I needed to drink and drug the way I wanted to. And so started to use heavier stuff, experimenting with pills, hallucinogens, whatever I could get my hands on, right? In the last few years of my drinking, you know, I went to college, but I didn't do any work. You know, the only college that I got into, you know, was this little liberal arts school, men-only school in Virginia called Hampton-Sydney College. And known for being pretty big party school.
Aren't they all?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, yeah.
And so
I was just wondering.
and so I became a blackout drinker while I was there, right? There would be stories about, you know, I wake up, no shirt, no shoes, my arm's bleeding, no keys. I got to crawl in my dorm room window, don't know where I parked my car. You know, like my dad says that I had the John Belushi's grade point average of 0.0. Right?
Fat, slow, and dumb's no way to go through life, kid.
Exactly.
Wow.
So you know, that didn't last real long. I got kicked out, and you know, in about a semester, and came home. It just got worse. I got real heavy into cocaine. At that point, I was dealing to support my habit. I went back to my golf course job, which, I'm depressed. I'm a failure. I'm an awful person. That whole last year was just awful. I didn't drink because it was fun anymore. There was no partying anymore. There was no fun. All of my good friends were off doing what they were supposed to be doing, and I was just back here all alone, drinking myself to oblivion, using anything I could get my hands on, right? And at that point, like up until then, my parents had me seeing therapists, and I'd been in to see mental health professionals, and I knew exactly what to say to those people to allow them to tell my parents, oh, he's fine, he's all right.
All right, so I got to ask this question. What did you do for the golf course, for the country club?
Oh, it was a public golf course, but I was a cart guy. So I was outside moving the carts around. I'm in the picker,
spraying them off.
I just had to know because I was a cart boy at Whitmore.
Yeah, there you go.
So
yeah,
I remember those days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so outside all day, setting up for tournaments, cleaning clubs for some cash that I'm gonna spend later.
Yeah.
And they tip well. Well, at the country club they did.
Yeah, we did all right. We did all right. But yeah, man, that last year, after all that other stuff, I remember. Well, I'll tell this story instead. Me and my dad were in West Virginia at this cabin, and we hadn't really had a great relationship for the last several years.
Right.
He couldn't figure out why I couldn't stop drinking and using drugs and get my shit together, so to speak. And I couldn't figure out why he didn't love me, right? And of course he did, but I didn't, So we're up there, we cut some trees down, we do man stuff. We have a little fire. We have a great little day. We go out to eat. We have a couple beers and some chicken wings, and then we go home and we watch a movie, action movie, because that's what guys do.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to bed, and I couldn't wait till he went to bed because it was time for me to continue the party because it wasn't enough for me. It almost hurt to have 2 beers at dinner because I was so far gone that I needed much more than that, right? And
So how old were you at this time, though?
20.
20? Okay.
Yeah. So the drinking age in my family was a very lax thing. I had a fake ID from 16. I had facial hair. I looked plenty old. I was working at the golf course, whatever. But I was 20 years old, and we're up there, whatever, and I smoked some weed in the house after I drank a bunch. I really didn't care. I could have walked outside and smoked the weed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to go to sleep because I had, been up or whatever, and I just wanted to go to sleep. I smoked some weed. He smelled it, came upstairs, saw me, and I was like, damn it, And that next day, I was to drive back to Richmond, Virginia, and so I drove back, lonely, didn't touch anything. And I get back home, my mom's sitting there, and she'd made dinner, and I had already had plans to go to my friend's house and get nice and high and drink some more, and sat down. She was like, I don't remember exactly what she said, but basically she was like, we got to do something about this. Like, this is not going to continue. You're not going to stay here anymore. We can't do it. And I was like, okay, I'll go. Wherever you want me to go, I'll go. Because I didn't have it in me to say no anymore. There was no excuses anymore. I had been in trouble. I'd wrecked cars. I'd had all of this crap, and I just was done. I was done. And so they took me to a treatment center in Maryland called Father Martin's Ashley. It's called Ashley now. And they drove me up there, and I was in there promptly about 10 days, got kicked out of there. I broke some rules that I didn't get high, but I broke some rules, and I got kicked out of there. And I thought that I was going to get to go home. I told the case manager, I was like, yeah, I want to go to outpatient. Send me to outpatient. I want to go home. And they're like, okay, we'll tell him. And so I didn't know this, right? But my brother got surgery that day, shoulder surgery. So my mom's taking care of him. And my dad's in a deposition, right? And so he's dealing with stuff. My dad has to walk out of the deposition to get in his car and drive to Maryland to pick me up. not knowing where they're sending me at this point. My mom makes a few calls. Somehow I end up at Mountainside in Canaan, Connecticut. Now, it's January.
So it's nice and warm.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
It's nice and cold, and so we keep going north. I don't know where we're going, right? Me and my dad didn't talk the whole way there.
Ooh.
Right? He's pissed. I messed it up again. It just continues to go over and over. Like I messed it up again, and we're getting closer and closer. And I remember like the guy was like, "Hey, you're gonna want to stop in this town and eat because there's nothing here open after 9 o'clock." So we stopped at a KFC and silently ate some chicken. It was like the Last Supper. and we get up there, man, and there's 3 feet of snow on the ground. And it's -2 degrees. And he opens the door. I meet the overnight tech or whatever who welcomed me in there, and he said, "All right, we'll see you." He takes off, and I go in there. And yeah, man, Mountainside, being up there was great for me. At the early point there, I wasn't maybe 100% bought in that I was going to live a sober life forever. All I knew is I couldn't do what I was doing. Like it was not working. And yeah, and that's really kind of how my recovery story starts. Right there.
Right there.
It's a good
So you
place
didn't break any rules.
Not at that one. Nope.
The silent treatment worked on the way up.
Yep.
I think it was the fact there was 3 feet of snow outside. If he messed up, he was going to end up having to walk, and he wasn't going nowhere.
There's nothing up there.
Oh yeah.
See?
There's nothing there.
Either you stay or
Yeah, act
stay.
right or you act out. And no, I get it. So
Well, we got that. So then I guess what was early sobriety like for you then? Like how long did you stay there?
I stayed up in the area for a year.
Really?
Right? So, I didn't know exactly. I let go of all control. All I knew is that I was there and I was going to make the most of it. I remember telling myself, like, treat this like school, show up, and so I did. I showed up to everything. I went to the groups, I went to the meditation, I went to the yoga, I went to the whatever they had, I went to it, right? Because I just wanted to feel better. I just didn't want to feel like I wanted to kill myself anymore.
Right.
And so I ended up staying an extra month up there. I looked at a few extended cares up there, but I ended up staying at Mountainside. They had one called Phase 4. They put us in this super nice double wide trailer on the other side of the property. And, we got paid $50 a week to be helpers around the grounds there. And then, so I got a job working with the maintenance guys, which were hilarious. One of them ended up being my temporary sponsor for a while.
nice.
He was a sober guy. And I shoveled snow and I carried stuff and I emptied the grease trap and I did all that stuff and I continued to go to meetings and learn what it was like to be a sober man and I just kept going because eventually like I just started to feel better. I felt that connection again with the people around me. I stayed there for another 3 months at the extended care and then I went to a sober living down the street called Beckley House. And I remember the manager there, his name was Josh Janik. And he was this real big, in good shape guy that everybody in the area knew and was revered and respected. And I remember being real nervous to ask him if they had a bed, and could I come down to Beckley House? And he said, "Yeah, absolutely, you come down." And it was some of the best time of my life, man, living in sober living. It was everything that I didn't get from my first college experience. I think it was like 25 guys in this house. They had a carriage house and then the main house. It was really old apartments that they kind of retrofitted into the sober living deal. And it was nothing nice, nothing fancy, but we had fun.
And you had sober fun.
We had sober fun. Like we had a blast, right?
What kind of things did you do?
I mean, we played volleyball in the backyard. We could walk right up the backyard and go on a hike. We went whitewater rafting. We played paintball. you know, I went on a couple trips with some of the guys who were from kind of the regional area. I went to Philadelphia and I had a cheesesteak. I went to New York and I had a slice of pizza. You know, I ate my way through, and I really truly laughed and enjoyed my time for the first time in, you know, however long.
I know a lot of people are afraid early in recovery, am I going to be able to have fun? Yeah, a ton of it, and you're going to remember it and have more money left.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So having all that fun in that, though, at the same time, what kind of challenges were you facing in that first part of your recovery?
Relationships.
Okay.
Yeah. So like my family relationships, like my parents were, obviously they're in Virginia. They came up to visit me a few times. I'm still working on repairing those relationships. And I was in, you know, I had a girlfriend at the time there that I was, you know, trying to figure out how to get out of my own way and not be the selfish, self-centered alcoholic, you know, and I learned a lot of hard lessons, and also like how to show up for work every day. I got this job at Ultra Clean Restoration, which it's kind of like Serve Pro.
Okay.
So like, you know, fire, water, mold restoration. I didn't know what the heck I was getting into. The guy was sober, and you'll never guess where I met him, at a cIall meeting.
Yeah. Hey, look at that. Right on.
So I'll bring it all the way back for you. So my first sponsor, Joe, was kind of heavily involved in a small cIall meeting up there at a church. I hope it's still there. And remember I told you that, you know, I kind of went away from my faith. I went away from all of that.
Right.
This is when I found it. And he was like, Matt, I'm going to pick you up. You're going to come with me to cIall. You're going to help me prepare the food, and it's going to be great. I was like, well, what's cIall? I don't know if I'm really not that kind of religious guy. Or
How far into your recovery was this?
Oh, a few months. I think it was maybe, 2 or 3 months in, right? And so he would take me, and we would go, and then, you know, another day a week, it was me and a couple other guys from the group working out of the workbooks and doing step work. And you know, that I met that guy that ended up hiring me at a cIall meeting, you know, and I'm starting to go to church on Sundays and feel that spiritual connection again, that I had a God that had my back, you know, or trust him. He always had my back, right? But it was knowing that I was deserving of it, that I could find that connection again.
Yeah, I would say the flip car shows God's grace.
Yep.
Right.
You know, so it shows that he had your back, but it's hard to see in that moment for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
I could definitely relate to finding your faith back at a cIall meeting. That's definitely what brought me back with cIall.
Something about it.
Right?
Yeah.
It's more than just a spiritual connection, but
That's where Jesus will be hanging out at, not church on Sunday. He going to be at a cIall meeting.
might be flipping some stuff over on Sundays, but
Hey.
come into a cIall, he's with his people.
He's going to sit and have dinner with us.
Yeah.
That's what it was, man. That's what it was. And, you know, I was going to meetings. I was pretty heavy in AA, you know, 5 to 7 meetings a week. I had a car, so I was taking guys to work, taking guys to meetings. You know, and I remember the tipping point for me was, you know, I was in a Tyvek suit under a flooded restaurant, pulling out wet insulation, you know, and so I'm pulling all that stuff out. I come out of there. Our boss gives us a little $100 tip. That was nice. And I called my dad, and I was like, I want to go back to school.
I don't want to be underneath this trailer anymore.
And what I haven't been telling you is, you know, about every 2 or 3 months, I would call my parents and say, I think I'm ready to come home. And they said no.
Good for them.
Boundaries, baby.
Every time, you know, I call them after the first 30 days, I'm ready. Nope. Click. All right. You know, a couple months later, I call them again. Okay, I think I'm ready. You know, I did this time. I'm done. Nope. Click. Go to extended care. Stay there 3 months. They come visit me. Things going well. You know, I think I'm ready to come home. Nope. Click. Sober living. And so I'm working this whole time. You know, I'm getting close to a year. And I called my dad and I asked a different question. I want to go back to school. Will you help me go back to school? He said, yes, but you can't come home. And I was like, okay, what about St. Louis then? We had ties there.
Right.
You know, I had family somewhat close. It made sense. And so I got clearance from Josh for me and my dad to fly out there and get enrolled. And, find an apartment. We did it all in one day, right? And we flew back the next day. And I remember up there, they have this big meeting in Mountainside on Friday nights. I used to love going to it. And up there, they do like this really cool thing where anybody can give you your coin. And it's a podium meeting. You could go up in the front and the person says a few words to give you your coin, right? And my dad gave me my coin.
Ooh, really?
1 year.
That's powerful.
First meeting he'd ever been to was that meeting. And he got to see it, right? And he gave me my coin. Man, that was a big deal for me.
Waterworks?
Oh, man, I was a mess. I was a
You got wrecked.
mess.
Good.
I'd be surprised if you weren't. Yeah.
I was a mess, but man, this guy, we had gotten in, skirmishes and fights and screaming matches. I'm punching holes in the wall and I'm breaking stuff, and he's, we had this horrible relationship, and then a year later, he gives me my 1 year coin. And that was it. I was like, okay, I think I want to stay sober. Right? So I come to St. Louis and I'm figuring it out. And something I want to make sure I mention is I didn't pick right up with cIall when I came here. Right? I was going to meetings. It took me a while to get a sponsor. I didn't really love the way he was going. I had a sponsor relapse. School wasn't really going the way that I wanted it to go. And so I just kind of went away from the program. I was dry for probably 1.5 to 2 years. Stayed sober, but I was miserable. My mental health was awful. I was fighting what my purpose in life was, right? I was trying to be this guy that I wasn't, trying to go get a business degree or be an MBA like my brother or something like that, right? And it wasn't me. And, I was sitting in a liquor store parking lot, Arena Liquor at Hampton and 40.
Yep.
I was sitting there and just waiting for the guts to walk in there. I'd never bought legal booze, right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't even know what brought me there. I don't know what I was doing that day. I just ended up there, right? Somebody out of the blue that I was in the sober house with called me out of the blue. Hey, Matt, how you doing, man? Things going well? And I was like, not really, man. Like, And he convinced me to go to a meeting. Saved my life that day, but that was God. That wasn't him.
Yeah, I mean, he allowed himself to be used by God, so that's very cool.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. And so I've had bottoms in recovery too. That was one of them.
Yeah.
Right? Where I was on fire for this thing, going to meetings, I'm going to cIall, I'm connected, I got a sponsor, I'm doing step work and all this stuff, and then the fire goes out and I stopped doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Almost drank. Almost gave up a few years of sobriety doing that. Right? It was crazy. And then, I get back connected, I get back going to my groups and which was really good for me. And then I was like, you know what? Screw this business stuff. I'm going to go to school for social work, right? Who cares? There's no money, whatever. I'm going to give this a try. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll just go work at Surf Bro. I did that before. I can do it again.
Climb underneath some more double wides and get out soaking wet insulation.
Yeah, whatever. I did that before, right? So I go back rededicated, right? I feel good. And I remember I'm in a biology class. I'm really busting my ass, and I got my grades are going well. My human services class is like I got an A in that. I ain't got an A since elementary school, so it's going well. And I ended up meeting this girl named Amber, right? And she's sitting back in the corner. I'm sitting in the front. I'm probably the oldest guy in there. I think I was 24 at the time. Everybody else is 20, 21, going to Merrimack Community College. And, we ended up talking. And, I'd really struggled with relationships, like I said. And I struggled kind of with dating. Do I tell people I'm in recovery? Do I not? Do I date people in the program? Do I not date people in the program? So I just didn't date anyone at all. I just isolated myself, and I'm still pulling myself out of this hole, right? And so I'm working myself up. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to tell her. I'm going to tell her, right? I called, I don't know, 4 or 5 people. Like, what do I do, right? And so I tell her, I worked myself up to it, and I was like, all right, I'll tell her, hey, I'm in recovery. You know, I got 4 years, but this is a part of me. Like, if this is not something that you want to get into, that's cool, but you need to know that that's a big part of me, right? And she's like, okay, let's go. You want to get some tacos?
Del Taco.
Yes, sir.
She says, you want to get some tacos? And I'm like, you know how long it took me to get the guts to say that to you, right? And so I tell that story because at this point, I still didn't think I was worth anything. I still didn't think I could, you know, do anything with school because all I'd ever do was fail. She told me that I could. And I would be at her house studying at her kitchen table and doing math and doing these things I was horrible at. It looked like hieroglyphics to me. And I'm in there. She would sit next to me and she would say, you can do it. It's okay. It's all right. She had my back, you know? And what I didn't know was, like, she was in a pretty dark spot too. And later on, her parents told me, like, yeah, man, she was in a pretty dark spot. Like, she wouldn't leave her room and all this other stuff. And so I was helping her without even knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
I ended up marrying her. And she's, you know, we're still married today, got a couple of kids, but you know, the biggest thing for me, maybe one of the biggest accomplishments besides getting several years of sobriety in a row, was the day that I walked across that stage at SIUE.
I bet.
When I got that undergrad degree,
Yeah.
there's a picture of me with my arms in the air, standing in the crowd my parents got. I was like, oh, because that was the only graduation that I didn't mess up in my whole life, right? And I did it. Something I never thought I would do, I did it, right? And wouldn't you know it, at the end of that, you know, I was president of the Student Social Workers Club. I was, you know, I graduated with honors and, you know, dean's list, all these things I never thought I would do, right? Crazy. And at the end of it, you know, my professors were like, Matt, you should go to grad school. Grad school?
More school?
You know how long it took me to get this 4-year degree? Like 8 years.
And I'm not a doctor.
Exactly. And so, you know, me and my wife we were house parents in this program called Joe's Place. I told you about it before, right? Amazing program. If you guys ever get a chance to check it out, it's a nonprofit deal where, you know, the school district in Maplewood owns the house and the nonprofit runs it. They got some great donors and it's, you know, it's a small group home for teenage boys, right? You know, homeless shelters and things will take women and children, but not so much, you know, more grown teenage boys. And so that's why they had a problem in that area. And so that's why they created this program called Joe's Place. And me and Ember had the opportunity to go be house parents there. And it was an amazing experience, man.
Oh, I bet.
I learned about trauma. I learned about how hard it was to build a relationship with someone who had been through some hard things, you know? And we were house parents during COVID. I was in grad school. I had 2 jobs. I was making $10 an hour at Preferred Family Healthcare as a tech, you know?
Oh, that was after the raise. It was $8.50 when I got hired. When I came back at 40 years old from California, it was $8.50 an hour to get hired there. So yeah.
Yeah. So it was nuts, but it was amazing at the same time, right? So COVID happens, and our outpatient was not getting clients because it's adolescent outpatient.
Right.
Not getting those teenage kids to show up for virtual groups. Right. So I was one of the first people sent on their way. You know, I'm about to finish grad school. You know, we get a little stipend to live at Joe's Place and do that work. You know, my wife's a special education teacher. What are we going to do? And I felt this calling, like, it's time, you know? And, you know, Learn to Live went from being an idea and a dream to, we're going to do this. You know, I must have been, people thought I was crazy. I told David O'Neill, who works for me, resident coordinator, I was working with him at Preferred Family Healthcare. I told him like a year before, I was like, Dave, if I go do this, will you work for me? Will you come, you know, be a house manager for me? If I do this? He was like, yeah, but he didn't think I was going to do it. Right. And he'll tell you that. Right. And so yeah, man, I went and looked at houses, and I talked to banks, and I made a business plan, and I did the whole thing, and I got a lot of no's, right? It's COVID. How are you going to get clients, right? How are you going to fund it, right? What are you going to do, you know? And just kept on going. And my wife actually found that property in Herman. Another thing she's helped me with. And we went out and looked at it, and I walked through those doors, man, and I was like, this is it.
It is a beautiful piece of property.
Yeah.
It definitely is. So
Was Dan the guy that went out to dinner lunch with us that night?
Dave, yeah. Yeah, you met Dave.
Yeah. Nice guy.
well, I don't know if it was really dinner. You can't
we had
have
lunch.
dinner in Herman
No.
unless it's at home because everything's closed.
They do a little better on the weekends, but during the week, you're right. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, you can't. Dinner, you better be eating by 3 o'clock.
If you like bratwurst, let me tell you, Herman, Missouri is the place to go. That place is nothing but bratwurst, and that place was the worst house.
The worst house,
Yeah,
the worst house is pretty
Why not?
good.
Yeah, they do a good job. I still got some of the brats upstairs in the freezer.
You can eat those.
Fire them up.
Oh, man, I will. Don't worry. It's coming up on summer. It's coming up on grilling time. Actually, I grill
They
in
said
the
we
winter
need to go up
too.
to Herman and go shopping because the ones I had actually went bad into my old freezer.
Ooh,
Yeah, kind of upset.
the jalapeno ones that you took. You were
Yeah,
supposed to
I'll
take
buy
the
you
other
some more,
one?
man.
We got to go get some.
We're going.
I can grab you some.
Yeah, yes, you can. And you're down here enough.
Yeah,
Hopefully, we start stealing you on Wednesdays every once in a while.
That'd be nice.
yeah, I'd be happy to.
So you talked about past, present, and I love the fact that, you know, twice in your story, you fall away from the things that you knew you should have been doing, you know? And I wanted to ask you, you know, what was your relationship like with a higher power, and how did that kind of evolve over time? You know, I know you grew up in you know, in the church, and you kind of fell away from that. I was very similar with that. And then early on, you got into a little bit of CR. So how did it start, and then where is it at now?
Yeah, man. So I kind of went through with like a few different churches and stuff, but what I really needed to do was have just a conscious contact, a way to connect, you know, and that was where my program had struggled. You know, for all these years, I put some time together and stuff, but I didn't really put enough time and effort into it. And then at this point in my story, I really get into doing a lot of step work, right? So even now I do the steps every single year, in a small group of men, where we work together, and you know we do a pretty strenuous 18-week step study where we all do the steps together, and it's been amazing for me because that has brought me back to God, right? A few times, like I said, I've been in and out. Going to a church called Middle Tree in the city it's in Richmond Heights that I like, but I needed to still have that conscious contact outside of Sundays, you know, and I still struggled with that years into my sobriety, and I would say the last 5 years it's been amazing because I've actually been putting effort in, right? So that prayer and meditation happens for me every single day, right? And what I figured out was God speaks to me through other people, right? God puts people into my life that tell me what I need to hear at exactly the right time, or the different connections that kind of come up. And so I talk about just kind of my life now is just, I'm kind of going downstream and just following along and saying yes and trying to stay out of his way. Because when I take my will back, it doesn't work, right?
Never does.
No, not typically.
So how about sponsorship, carrying the message, amends process? Give us some of that.
Yeah. You already talked about a
yeah.
little bit of sponsorship and stuff. So
I found, you know, I've had several sponsors over the years. It's so important for me because I need someone that I'm not just close to, that doesn't just know the intricate details of me and my past and all of that, but can help me on a daily basis just focus on what really matters, which is what God wants me to do, right? And so sponsorship for me is so important. And I sponsor guys, and it's the biggest honor, and you could probably say this too, when someone asks you to sponsor them, it is the biggest honor that you pretty much get to do, you know, in recovery. right? And you don't get paid to do it.
Nope.
There are no dues or fees, right? But it's unbelievable, right? To sit there, you know, and do a fist step with someone and have them share all these details of these things that they've held in for so long, and see all the weight come off them, and do that prayer and see them rise up and be free of it. It's amazing, right? And the amends process for me took several years. And I still have some financial amends with my parents. They wouldn't take my money before. And they might still not now, but I still on my docket. I still need to pay them back, because I found out later that the place that I went didn't take my insurance, so they private paid for it all.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't like, you know, crazy expensive or anything, but it was quite a bit of money. I stayed an extra month, you know, like, and I was like, what? And no one said anything to me till years into sobriety, right? But I remember making amends to them. And my sponsor said, don't say I'm sorry, because we've said I'm sorry too many times.
Yep.
Amends means to make better, right? Better than you found it. And so I called my mom every day, still do. Every day I call my mom, you know. And, you know, I really worked on my relationship with my dad and my brother, and I took advantage of everyone, and I lied and I cheated and I stole. And, you know, I went around and I did those amends, and it was a freeing process, but it was hard.
Yeah.
You know, for some of the stuff I did at that golf course, they could have locked me up. You know, like, and making amends to my former managers and making amends to family and friends, it's a freeing feeling. And, you know, something I want to make clear is I'm a true believer that the steps aren't meant to be done just one time, because things come up throughout the year.
You don't say.
Right? And I found that without help, you know, I could be a resentful, selfish alcoholic. And so I need that connection with my higher power. I need that connection with other people that will tell me the truth. And I need to put myself under the microscope and make sure that I'm living this life and I don't get blockages along the way.
I think we said it last week, search me, O God, and show me any wicked ways in me, right? Show me in something that disappoints you. Yeah, it's easy to fall back into that denial. It's easy to fall back into the bad routines of life, without a doubt, if we're not doing it. I'm glad you brought it up that steps should be worked on a daily basis. I mean, no matter what, we have to keep working steps. I was disappointed. I talked to somebody in recovery a couple weeks ago, and she says, yeah, I was told that CR is only meant to go through one time and then you're done. And I said, whoever told you that is an idiot. I mean, a flat out idiot. Can't say it any other way, because no, this is something we're always going to work on the rest of our lives. When we quit doing these things, if we quit doing the things that got us here, we go back to doing the things that brought us here.
Yep.
And that's all there is to it.
Repetition is ammunition.
Yeah.
Right?
Ooh.
My friend Kevin says that. I stole that from my friend Kevin, but it's so
We're
true.
gonna steal it from you to use it at work.
No, use it, because it's true. Like everything I do repetitiously, right? I read the big book so many times, like my big book's falling apart, right? You know, everything that we do positively and repetitiously becomes a good habit. And for me, for this alcoholic, like I need that.
I heard, or I read yesterday, amateurs practice until they get it right. Pros practice until they can't get it wrong.
I like that.
Ooh. And I was like,
That's good.
that is spectacular, the way that is said. Amateurs practice until they get it right. Pros practice until they can't get it wrong. I'm like, that has stuck with, I know I only read it yesterday, but I've had to say it like 10 times already. Because it always, I love that. Yeah, it was amazing to hear.
It's powerful.
Mike, what else you got for him? I mean, there's several more I want to do, but I know we don't.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Yeah. Last thing for me, and I think it's a pretty good segue, is, you know, what are your plans for the future? You know, how do you plan to maintain your sobriety and you know, learn to live as a big part of your life? What are the plans?
Well, something that I want to make clear is that I found out a few years into working in this field when I was at Preferred that the work couldn't be my recovery.
Nice.
The work couldn't be my recovery. And so I am, focused to having my own recovery process outside of Learn to Live. And I have a lot of accountability with that because the guys are watching,
Yeah.
right? So if I don't do it, why would they do it? Right. And several of the people that have been through my doors, and they'll probably tell you, but I love accountability so much. I need it so much. It is the gift that nobody wants, but everybody needs. And I figured that out. Right. So I still am very, repetitious with going to my meetings. I go to several meetings a week, 2-3 meetings a week. I sponsor a couple guys, do step work with them. The step work group, I lead that now every year. And so, I have some commitments. I lead some meetings, and so I have that outside of Learn to Live so that I can make sure I'm good. I got to put my oxygen mask on first so that I can help someone else later.
Amen.
Right. And so that's first and foremost, right? It's that, my program, my family, and the rest of it, like, God just kind of takes care of it, man. Like I love Learn to Live. It was a dream to take out of my brain and my dreams into reality. I love what I get to do every day. I commute a little over an hour every day, and I don't mind it. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm just following along. We had the opportunity to add the other house this year. It's been amazing. I think it's a great next step for these guys. But the best thing for me is when it works. I realized the other day that we have like a dozen or so alumni that are doing really, really well. And so I'm trying to organize some alumni get-togethers. I'm trying to get those guys connected so that they can come back and carry the message. That's really what I'm after.
Derek, what do you got for him?
I'm down to hear what message of hope and inspiration do you have for those people out there that listen here that just coming into recovery? That you've had your battles in that. What do you have for them?
I got sober at 20 years old. I've been sober for 13 years. The deck was pretty much stacked against me because at the time it was like, man, people didn't really get sober that young, right?
Nope.
And I didn't even want to probably until like months 3, 4, or 5. And I've been able to accomplish things in recovery that I never thought possible. Couple degrees of family, amazing wife that loves me, kids. My family will talk to me, these amazing things. You can do it too, right? Like this, I can't ever explain it, but I talk to people. I was like, man, if you just don't drink or drug one day at a time and trust God, you will get better. Things will get better for you if you do those things. And, I've seen it happen. I've seen homeless people become doctors and lawyers. I've seen people that were just totally hopeless become CEOs of companies. I've seen God pull people out of just these crazy situations. I have a sponsee, and he wouldn't mind me telling you, he's facing 9 or 10 felony charges. Never did a day in jail. Amazing, right? So you can do it too, first and foremost. And if there are any family members of recovering addicts or alcoholics that need support, we have a virtual family support group at Learn to Live that's open to anyone.
When is it?
It's Wednesday nights at 6:00.
Yeah, they're going to need that because
Yeah.
It's an amazing. Look, I know Brent's parents loved it. They rave about it. So any families out there, if you need support, if you don't need support, hop on there. Maybe somebody else might need the support you could give.
Exactly.
So just join it because it's an amazing time. I know me and Christina need to hop back on there.
We need to get you back.
Yeah, because it was a blast getting on there for us as well.
Yeah.
So here, what was your biggest surprise in recovery then? Because you've had a lot of really good things happen in your recovery. What's the biggest surprise for you? What's the biggest blessing?
Family. Right? Mm-hmm. Like I've had a lot of external things happen, the school and like Learn to Live and that kind of stuff. But like I said, the relationship stuff, I struggled with it. And to have Amber, who's never drank in her life, which was baffled my mind, mm-hmm. right? How could God just put this person in my life, exactly what I needed at exactly the right time, still in my life today, helping me out when I have those hard days, right? When we have stuff go on, and we're struggling. Like she picks me up off the floor, man. And so her and my kids, like, you know, I have a life today beyond my wildest dreams. Like, that promise is freaking true. You know, and I have to say, like, that was pretty unexpected, you know, like, it all really was, to be honest with you. I'd never done anything yet. I was 20 years old. I didn't, you know, and so being here on the other side of it today, helping people it's still crazy to me that I get to do this.
I get to do this.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. So I guess before we close, how important is a higher power?
It is so important. I've seen people do everything else, right? Step work, sponsorship, go to 7 meetings a week, you know, and still drink or still use, like, and whoever your higher power is for you, like, you know, we're in my big book study, you know, one of the best chapters in the big book is chapter 2, the agnostic, because it talks about how God is or God isn't. And that's the thing that kind of broke through for me. For me, it's essential, right? And when I sit down with guys, once we get through steps 1, 2, and 3, and I say, okay, it's time to talk about God. Who is God to you, right? And I can't do it without him, because on my own, I struggle. I know that. And so when I'm full of fear, when I wake up in the morning full of fear and I pray for help, I feel better, you know?
Funny how that works. Can't make it past step 3 if you don't believe in something greater than you.
That's right.
So I don't know how you would ever stay sober.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, thank you, man. What an amazing story.
Absolutely.
I mean, I guess I could take a big, huge cheer. Thank you for joining us, man. It was great. Now we're going to go put your tennis skills to work. We're going to see exactly how good he was at tennis.
I'm kind of interested to see.
Yeah.
We're going to see.
Yeah,
He's been making us run all over the place, man.
Luckily, it's a smaller court. I like pickleball way better than tennis now.
Right. So, yeah, for those that don't know, we're going to go play some pickleball as soon as we leave here, like we usually do on a Wednesday night. So, you want to hit it?
Derek, got anything in closing?
Yes, we have hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. It enters the inner sanctuary behind the curtain.
Amen.
6:19.
Amen.
We were talking about hope in that, and so that one touched me right there. It should be reclaiming hope, so scripture.
Love it.
Hey, like,
anything?
Share, subscribe, any of that? No, I already did on mine.
Y'all good?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, guys, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Again, we are on all podcast platforms. You see us on social media, give us a share. We really appreciate it. Matt, thank you so much for coming out, man.
Woohoo! Yeah.
This was amazing.
Thanks,
First time hearing it, and love you, brother.
You too, man.
For all of us here at Awake and Sober, we'll see you next week.
God bless you guys.
Peace.